So basically the uh, the structure of algae, and basically an algal cell is basically a membrane bound cell, okay, which contains a nucleus, a chloroplast, and the mitochondrion. And in the most algal cells, chloroplast, there is only a single nucleus, although some cells are multinucleate. In addition, some algae are symphonous, okay, with many nuclei not separated by the cell walls, and some nucleus contains most of the genetic material DNA of the cell. In most algae, the molecules of DNA exist as a linear strands that are condensed into an obvious chromosomes only at the time of nuclear division. However, there are certain groups of algae in which nuclear DNA is always condensed into chromosomes. Okay, and what are the functions of the chloroplast? Now, chloroplasts are basically the sites of photosynthesis and the complex of biochemical reactions that use the energy of light to convert carbon dioxide and water into sugars. Okay, and each chloroplast contains flattened membranous sacs called thylakoids, and that so the algal cell wall basically, which also contains mitochondria, okay, which are the sites where the food molecules are broken down and carbon dioxide, water, and chemical bond energy are released. Chemical bond energy are released in a process called cellular respiration. In a process called cellular respiration. Okay, and there is also the inner membrane of the mitochondrion, which is infolded to a great extent, and this provides the surface area necessary for the respiration. And the infoldings are called cristae, and the infoldings are basically called cristae in the mitochondrions. Okay, and they have basically three morphologies. One is a flattened or a sheet-like. Second one is a finger-like or the tubular-like, and the third one is the paddle-like. The third one is the okay. Uh, okay, now connection is stable. I can move forward. Now the connection is stable. I can move forward now. So the algae basically exhibits a great diversity in the organization of the plant body, and the algal species found in the different forms, basically unicellular, colonial, filamentous, and the parenchymatous form. Okay, now the connection is stable. I can move forward now. The algae basically exhibits a great diversity in the organization of the plant body. The algal species found in different unicellular are basically unicellular, colonial, the filamentous and the parenchymatous forms. Now moving further forward with the different types of celluloses, the first one which we are going to discuss is basically the unicellular thallus. Except from the family Piophyceaceae, many members of the other class have unicellular thallus. Have basically unicellular thallus. Okay, and of which it also contains subtypes which include amoeboid and rhizopodial type of thallus, whereas cell wall seems to be absent and there is no specific or the defined shape of the cells due to the presence of the pseudopodia. Okay, due to the presence of the pseudopodia. Okay, example is a of a rhizochlorus. Okay, so as they do not have a definite shape, okay, why? Because they have a pseudopodia. What is the function of the pseudopodia? The function of the pseudopodia is for the food, okay, is for the collection of the food as well as for where there are also other functions such as for the attachment also. Okay, now comes the second one, the flagellated one. The flagellated ones are basically the flagellated motile algae. Flagellated motile algae. Okay, simply this algae it's a unicellular and possesses and flagella and possesses an flagella. Examples are Euglena and Chlamydomonas. Euglena and Chlamydomonas. Okay. Next comes the non-flagellated one, which includes circular or maybe and non-flagellated known as coccoid or protococcoid algae. Okay, coccoid or protococcoid algae, which includes examples of chlorella, spirulina and diatoms. Okay, we will see photographs in the later part of the lecture. Okay, and there are also multicellular forms, okay, which are found in the organization in a aggregation type, colonial, filamentous and the parenchymatous types. Okay, now the first one is the aggregation. What do you mean by the word aggregation? Okay, when a unicellular algae live to aggregate which includes palmelloid type, okay, what do you mean by palmelloid type? A circular non-motile cells embedded in the gelatinous matrix. The shape and the number of cells are not fixed in a particular colony, and each cells of a colony is free physiologically from each other. Okay, so I am repeating it. They are simply palmelloid type is basically as they are mostly of the circular cells, okay, which are non-motile and are basically embedded, okay, mean pegged in a some type of gelatinous matrix. Okay, shape is not fixed and the number of cells are also not fixed. Okay, and each cell of the colony is free physiologically from the other algae. Okay, and the next one, and the examples are Tetrospora, Palmella and the Microcystis. Okay, Palmella, Microspora and Microcystis. The photograph given on the left side is of a Palmella and the photograph given on the right is of a Microcystis. Okay, please have a look at both the photographs. Okay, photograph given on the left side is of a Palmella and on the right side is of a Microcystis. Okay, now moving forward. Next one is a dendroid type. Okay, how do they appear? They appear like a small microscopic tree Okay, somewhat like tree-like structure. Branch structure of tree is made due to the mucilaginous threads. Okay, due to the mucilaginous threads. Okay, an example is of a crossodendron. Okay, now for example, these are similar to a tree. Okay, but it is of microscopic size, Okay, an example is of a crossodendron. Now next comes, basically it's a rhizopodial. Okay, what is rhizopodial? Each cell of the colony is fixed with the rhizopodia. An example is of a Chrysidiastrum. Example is of a Chrysidiastrum. Okay. Now moving further with the next type, which is basically a colonoid type. What are the characters of the colonoid type of structure? They have a definite size in shape, means size will be fixed as well as the shape of the colony will be also fixed. Even the number of cells which will be in the colony will also be fixed. Okay, and the colony is also known as synobium. Okay, and in which the first subtype is a flagellated or motile, where the flagellated cells are connected with plasmodesmata and are circular in shape. Okay, examples are Pandorina, Eudorina, and the third one is the volvox. The photograph given here are of volvox. Okay. Now moving to a small video, a very interesting video of the volvox. Okay. Please have a look at the video. This one is a colony of a volvox, where you can clearly see the round shaped colony. Microscopic forms which basically feed on volvox. filaments. And in the case of the unbranched filaments, okay, simple branched filaments are found in the members of the Spirogyra, Oregonium, Ulothrix, nostoc, etc. In the case of Ulothrix and Oregonium, the holdfast cells present at the basal of the end filament and the free floating filaments are found in the case of Spirogyra. In the case of a Spirogyra, okay, and in the case of one which is branch filaments, branching can be seen due to the presence of the lateral growth, okay, lateral outgrowth at the lower part of the filaments, followed by the formation of the transverse septum. Okay, and examples are of Pithophora and Cladophora. Okay, now the next one, there are three basically types of branching. Okay, the first includes simple, okay, where a thallus made by a single filament with a basal cell at the basal end, except the basal cell, other cell induced branching. Example in the case of Cladophora. Okay, please have a look at the photograph here, which is of a Cladophora. The branching trichomes are attached with the help of the basal cell, to the substratum on which they grow. Okay, this part is going to be attached with the substratum. Okay, now second one is a heterotrichous. Both erect and the prostate branching present more evolved thallus as compared to the simpler ones. Where the simpler ones we have seen in this case with simple branching. For example, this one is a filament. These are the simple branches. Okay, these are the simple branching forms. Okay, now comes the heterotrichous, where both they may be erect branching also, okay, as well as prostate branching. Okay, now you may see the branching. These are the different types of branching. Okay, and examples given here are of a colliocate. This one is a colliocate, and this one is a ectocarpus. Okay, next comes pseudoparenchymatous. The name itself says pseudo. Okay, in some members, filaments and branches joined together longitudinally or transversely develops pseudoparenchymatous type of thallus, and depending on the main number of filaments forming the thallus, it is called uniaxial or multiaxial. Please have a look at the uniaxial ones. Okay, uniaxial, where you can see the branching here. All the three photographs are of batrachospermum. Okay, where you can see a simple uniaxial ones. Branching is basically a uniaxial. When uniaxial branches are fused, here only the single filament possesses an apical cell, and this is capable of the independent growth. Okay, this is capable of an independent growth. Okay, the next comes the multiaxial. Okay, example given here is of a polysiphonia, where two or more filaments develop from a single basal cell. Okay, where you can see multiple branchings. Okay, where multiple axial, where you can see multiple branches more clearly. Okay, from a single basal cell. Okay, from a single basal cell. Okay, the photograph given here is of a polysiphonium. I am repeating it, and this one is a microscopic structure of a polysiphonia, which is basically stained. Next comes symphonous. Okay, thallus develops from a tubular, accepted, branched and multinuclear filaments. Example, Vaucheria and Botryddium. Yeah, please have a look at this structure. This photograph is of a Vaucheria. And the photograph given here is of a Botryddium. Okay, I am repeating again. The thallus, okay, which develop from a tubules like or from tubular or accepted branch and multinuclear filaments. Okay, so the next one, parenchymatous. The cellular division in different planes convert a parenchymatous body where daughter cells are basically fused together, okay, and the example includes ulva, laminaria and sargassum. Okay, I am repeating again, where in the case of parenchymatous, cellular division in different planes convert a parenchymatous body where daughter cells are fused together. Example includes vulva, laminaria and sargassum. This photograph is of a laminaria and this photograph is of a ulva. Okay, now let us discuss photosynthetic pigments. Okay, different types of fungi basically possesses different types of photosynthetic pigments. Okay, in most of the photosynthetic pigments include three basic types. Okay, three basic types. One is the carotenoids, second one is the chlorophyll, the third ones are the phycobilins. Where what are carotenoids? Basically they are generally yellowish color, okay, and are fat soluble pigments, and they have the capacity to absorb solar spectrum and further these carotenoids are divided into two types. One is the carotene, the second one is the xanthophyll. The carotene is of a yellow or orange type of color, whereas the xanthophyll is somewhat like yellow to brown in color. Okay, next comes chlorophyll, which are basically green in color, fat soluble. Now there are about 5 types of chlorophyll: A, B, C, D and E, which are present in all forms of algae. Okay, while chlorophyll B, C and D are found in some of the restricted algae only. Okay, and the last ones are the phycobilins, which may be red or blue in color. There are again water soluble complexes of proteins and are like pigments. Divided into two types. One is the blue ones. The second one is the red ones. Blue pigment which is present is a phycocyanin in the family Cyanophyta, and the red pigment which is phycoerythrin in the family Rhodophyta. Okay, so the different types of pigments basically have different types of roles in the case of a algae, and all these pigments, especially the carotenoids, can help the algae to photosynthesize, photosynthesize. Okay, so now moving forward with the other photographs of the algae. Okay, the first one is of an chlamydomonas. Chlamydomonas. The second one is a Carteria. Okay, all these are flagellated green algae. All these photographs are of green flagellated algae. Okay, the third one is Chlorogonium. The fourth one is Pyrobotids. The fifth one is a Chrysococcus. Okay, the sixth one is a Cyanura. Seventh one is the Pandorina. Eighth one is the Eudorina. Ninth one is the Dinobrion. 10th one is a Peridinium. 11th one is a Ceratium, and the 12th one is a Gonium. The 13th is a volvox. In the 13th photograph diagram is of a volvox. Now comes the next one, filamentous algae. First one is a rhizoclonium, second one is the cladophora, third one is a bulbocate, the fourth one is a Idogonium, the fifth one is Vaucheria, sixth one is Tribonema, seventh one is a Chara, eighth one is a Batrachospermum, ninth one is Microspora, tenth one is Ulothrix, 11th one again is a Ulothrix, but a different species. And the 12th one is a Desmodium, 13th one is a Myogiosia, 14th one is Pyrogyra, 15th is Zygonema, 16th one is a Stygioclonium, the 17th one is a Drapernaldia. Now comes the non-filamentous forms. The first one includes Chlorococcum, second one Oocystis, third one is Chlorellastrum, the fourth one is Chlorella, fifth one is Parocystis, sixth one is Microactinium, seventh one is Synedesmus, eighth one is Phytoconis, 10th one is Enkystrodesmus. Next comes 11th one is the Palmella, 12th one is a Boetrococcus, 13th one is a Tetradrone, 14th one is a Pediastrum, 15th one is a Tetraspora, 16th one is a Staurostrum. Okay, 7th one again it's in same one. Okay, but it's of another one. 18th one is a Clostridium, 19th one is a Eustrum, 20th one is Micrasterias. Now comes the diatoms. Okay, the first one is Diatoma, second Gomphonema, third Cymbella, fourth again it's in Cymbella but another species. The fifth one is a Cocconiosis. Okay, seventh one is Nischia, eighth one is Pinularia, ninth is Cyclotella, 10th is Tabellaria, 11th again is a Tabellaria, 12th one is a Syndra, 13th one again it's in Syndra, the 14th one is Milocira, 14th one is Surilla, 16th one is Stauronius, 17th one is Fragillaria. 18th one is again Fragillaria, and the 19th one is an Estionella, 19th and 20 both. The 21 is Navicula, the 22nd is Stephanodiscus, the 23 one is in Meridian. Okay, the next comes the cyanobacteria, which some of them are also included in the cyanobacterial forms, okay, which are basically bacteria, but some of them also include the cyanobacteria in the unicellular. Okay, also in the case of algae, some of them. The first one is first, second, third is basically Anabina. The fourth one is Nodularia. The fifth one is Cylindrospermum. The sixth one is Arthrospira. Okay, the seventh one is Microcoleus. Eighth one is Formidium. Ninth one is Oscillatoria. 10th one is Ephanusinum. 11th one is a Lingbia. 12th one is a Tolipothrix, and the 13th one is the Antophysiacelis. Okay, now other examples of cyanobacteria. 14th one is a Gomphocephalia, 14th and 15th. Yes, 14th and 15th. 16th and 17th ones are A. Gamnillum. Okay, 18th one is a Calothrix, 19 is Revoluria, 20, 21 and 22 is of a photograph is of a anacystis, is of a anacystis. Okay, now the modes of reproduction of the algae. This is not a part of your course, so I'm just going to discuss in a very short manner. Okay, you need to remember this, because if by chance any of the question is asked from this reproduction, okay, so the reproduction basically occurs in the algae. One is in the vegetative form, usually occurs in the favorable condition. Second one is a asexual form, which generally occurs during the unfavorable conditions. And the third one is of a sexual form, where gametes fuse to form zygote and new combinations of genes are formed. Okay, so simply vegetative, asexual and asexual forms, and asexual forms. Okay, now moving forward with the various types of vegetative reproduction. Okay, basically vegetative type of reproduction in the case of algae, okay, includes several different types. Okay, several different types in the case of the vegetative reproduction of the algae. So starting with the first one. Okay, so I'm just going to give you some of the idea. The first one is basic, the cell division, which is usually found in the case of unicellular algae. Okay, which is usually found in the case of unicellular algae. Okay, the second one is basically a fragment. The second one is basically a known as uh, hormones. Okay, I'm repeating the hormone again. Okay, it may be due to the mechanical pressure or the dissolution of the cross walls caused by shearing strains, and the thallus break in for two or more cells. Two or more cells. Next comes hormospores. Next comes the hormospores. These are basically a type of modified hormogonia, okay, which are covered by thick mucilages. Okay, under the favorable conditions, they grow and germinate. Okay, they grow and germinate. Next one is a adventitious thalli. Okay, and basically they adventitious thalli. Okay, and next comes the propagules. Okay, where sometimes the old thallus or the fused-celled branches start developing, which later detach from the plant and form complete thallus. Okay, it's very simple. Budding, again a very easy one. Okay, it is due to the vegetative proliferation, where a bud develops, and due to the budding a due to the budding of the vesicle form a complete thallus. Next comes the bubils. Okay, many times the rhizoids of certain algae produce small bud-like structures, which is basically full of stored food material. Okay, which can give rise to a new algae. Next example is of a tubers. What are tubers? They have simply the rounded structures. Okay, usually full of starch. Okay, when they are detached with the main structure of the algae, they grow into a new colony. Now next comes the splitting of colonies. Okay, which the video must have seen in the case of volvox, when each colony attains its maximum size. Okay, a small number of constrictions starts appearing in the middle of the colony, where each part develops a new colony. The next one type is of biproteinamas. Okay, so for example, in the case of a algae, where some thread-like structures develop from the zygote, okay, which basically gives rise to a has a each and every spore, okay, has a different structure. So it basically depends on the type of spores which are basically give rise to a new algae. Okay. Next comes the sexual reproduction. Types are given here: autogamy, hologamy, isogamy, physiological anisogamy, neanisogamy, and the last one is oogamy. The last one is oogamy. So when this occurs with the production of the different gamete cells, this occurs with the production of the different gametes which are produced by the algae. Okay, so finally I'm going to end the lecture, and please join the webex session.